What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Um, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you guys here once again. Derek, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Um, we have the RickMortyDoxx team here with us today. It is definitely exciting, and a lot of you should probably already know about this project or have seen it on Twitter, online somewhere, because they have been making a lot of noise. This is, in my view, a project that could potentially make a huge difference in the space. I'm not going to tell you all about it. I'll let the devs do that. And this is why we're here, so we can learn about these projects. Now, I advise you, besides having your popcorn next to you, have a pen and paper next to you as well, because right here, we in school. We need to take notes. So after this, so you could go study. You know what I mean? Don't just, oh yeah, it was on the Bert Show, I'm going to buy. No, go do your homework. That's why we're here for. You know, this is why I bring the devs, so they could come out and educate you on these projects. Have your questions ready. I got my list of questions. I'm expecting you to have your list of questions as well. You know what I mean? Because we putting on money. We need to know what we putting on money in. We need to know every single detail about this project. Now, these fellas are an amazing group of fellas, good people. So don't be afraid to speak to them. They don't bite. You know what I mean? Just be careful how you come to me. I'm just joking, guys. Anyhow, how we doing? Game Explorer, what's going on? The last dig blockchain. Let me tell you something. That's a long name. All right. What's up, my brother? Buckle, how we doing? Sadabert, you are awesome. RMDoxx is the future, and Zion will make this crypto sphere safe for all investors. I'm curious to know more about Zion. Okay, that is a very powerful name right there. Okay, need more people like Bert. No fanboy. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate these amazing comments. But I have the team on the back end. Let me go ahead and bring these gentlemen forward. So we have Dr. Ellis and Mr. Kyle. How we doing, everybody? How we doing, gentlemen? What is going on? Thank you,
Good
guys,
afternoon.
to the show. Thank you so much for being here. So this is not about me. This is your show. You guys go ahead and take it over. Please tell us about yourselves. Tell us your background. Tell us your history with crypto. If you got any business affiliation, just tell us everything.
So I guess I'll lead off. My name is Dr. Ellis Jerusalem. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Michigan. I also have postdoctoral training in data science, and I've taught statistics at the graduate level. So I have a pretty strong background in research more generally, as well as data science methods and extrapolating data from a range of sources. That said, I've been aware of crypto probably since pretty close to the beginning. A couple of my friends were in a few things like the Ethereum presale or retired off of Cardano at this point. But I didn't get into it really until 2017 in any meaningful way. But once I got into it, like just about anything else, I got a little obsessive, learned everything I could. And it's an interesting space because it's a combination of finance, computation, statistics, street smarts. It's a really, really weird mix of things. And then there was this token, Rick and Morty, which rug pulled like so many others do. And it sort of pissed me off. And I thought to myself, I could do this. And it turned out there was about a dozen other people were thinking that. And we kind of talked and saw what we could do. And about 8 of us came together to resurrect the community, but also build a project that would help eliminate or dramatically reduce the risk of rug pulls in this space, which, as it turns out, when I did my research, about 99% of major fraud in crypto is due to either a rug pull or some other form of exit scam. So really was the right place to be, and it's something that's desperately needed in the space.
So yes, Kyle, how we doing, my friend? Tell the people about you and anything you want to tell them.
I'm really good. Thanks for having us as well. We all of us appreciate it. I speak on behalf of the team that isn't here as well. My name's Kyle Gadet. I was the last member to be brought on to the team. I was actually an investor that believed in the project from the moment I heard it. And then when an opportunity arose for someone with my skill set, they approached me, and we decided it would be mutually beneficial to all parties for me to come on board. Essentially, what I'll be doing is business development, public relations. I'm the guy that talks to everybody one-on-one. I'm very comfortable doing that. I like phone conversations. I like to meet up with people. It strongly ties into what I do every day. And I'm an owner of a few different construction and maintenance businesses within my small section of Canada. So it was kind of a natural fit. I've been involved in cryptocurrency for quite a few years. My first purchase was Bitcoin in and around, I think it was around $9,000. Thank God I got rid of that shortly after. It worked out really well for me. I have several different holdings in many different coins, obviously RMD, and then, I'm one of the early holders with Saitama. You may have heard of that. It's pretty low profile. And then, several other ones. I mean, I got a lot of stable coins. I got a lot of more riskier coins. And when I was brought on board, I was just absolutely fascinated with the team that we've put together. And I have the utmost faith in them. So I'm here for the long haul. And once again, thanks for having us on.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. So one question I do have, what made you guys decide to come up with this type of project? What motivated you to actually decide that, hey, I was going to create a project such as RMDoxx? And, what does it consist of? If you may enlighten us on that.
So I was speaking a little bit to this earlier. There was a token, Rick and Morty, which launched almost immediately after I think Elon Musk had referenced it or something, and it pumped. And the person who made it either was malicious or incompetent and crashed the coin. And so a lot of people got basically wiped out with that token. And so a number of us got together and we're like, is there a way to resurrect this? And so partially it was try and salvage the community that had been decimated or worse by these kind of bad actors. But also, like, we want to do more than that, like not just have a name or a meme token, but actually do something that would be different. And as chance would have it, several of us got together. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I also have training in data science, and I've been in cryptocurrency for 4 or 5 years. We have a lawyer on the team who has a background in, obviously law. He's a licensed lawyer in Florida. We have people who have security clearance and who have a background in, 10 or 20 or more years in computer science, programming, and developing large projects and bringing them to scale. And so we ended up with this team that's a really unusual mix of, legal, behavioral science, and competent coders. And we thought not only could we launch a token, we could build a utility that would help cut down on this. And one of the things we identified, through doing, review of the literature, review of available open source, and some other things just gleaned from experience, what we realized is that the biggest source of loss in cryptocurrency is exit scams and rug pulls. And in fact, they account for far more losses in cryptocurrency as a whole than these, kind of staggeringly big exchange hacks or scams where people ask for your seed phrase or things like that. But actually, most of the losses, most of the 0x's, not the 100x's or 1000x's, the 0x's, most of the 0x's come as a result of either a rug pull or other similar exit scam. There's actually about half a dozen of these. Some of them are really sophisticated. They're sophisticated enough that they can get a very high score on, say, token sniffer, when it's automated features, or It seems like liquidity is locked, but it's actually not really locked, or it's locked, but it's a brief duration, so it doesn't provide that much protection, and so on and so forth. There's at least a half a dozen of these that are regularly used, and probably another dozen odd ones that are very effective. And so we got together and we tried to develop a profile based on legal, behavioral, technical, and other other aspects to basically score tokens. And we found out that we came up with this scoring system that's reasonably good at predicting tokens that are going to crater. And it's a bit agnostic. It doesn't actually, it doesn't necessarily differentiate between whether the person meant bad or just was incompetent, but it's reasonably good at predicting tokens that are going to crater. And it goes that, this is a very high risk token. And sometimes they're counterintuitive. So for example, one of the tokens that's kind of a test case was Zuki Inu. And on paper, it looked good. Supposedly, it even had a docs team and these other things. But there was an auto fail on one of the key questions. And there are a range of other things that actually gave it a risky score, even though many people thought this was a solid project. The same thing, there was a token that was launching stealth. And even though they supposedly had 15 people on the dev team, some of them were clearly on voice chats or other things, our methodology return to score is actually really concerning enough that we actually put out warnings before the token launched, and it ended up having all sorts of difficulties on launch night. So we found out that there's a range of factors, and not all of them are technical. And so we came up with 4 sayings that pretty much summarize RMDoxx, our philosophy, but each one is coded to a utility or an activity that we do. The first one is not just tokens, teams. Tokens don't just parachute in out of nowhere. They're built by people. And if you understand the team behind the token, you have a much better appraisal of the risk-reward trade-off with the token. The next one is not just influence, accountability. And one of the things we came to realize is that there are a series of networks of either bad or unconcerned actors in the influencer space who promote tokens routinely that rug or that extract value from their followers. And so it's one thing if you look on, say, Lunar Crush, you can get a sense of how much reach an influencer has, but you don't know whether their calls are good or they use that reach for good. And so not just influence, but accountability. The next part, which is part of some proprietary technology, we've actually filed patents, provisional patent applications with the United States government for some of these later utilities that no one else is doing anything remotely like. The next one is, not just avatars, but people. And so we have to figure out, what it means to be a person in what's eventually going to be the metaverse, where we have this quasi real and quasi fake identity presentation. Well, how do we get trust? How do we get real world benefits while being in the virtual world? And we think we have a solution to that. And the last part is, not just us, but an alliance. So, RickMortyDoxx, RMDoxx, we're not gonna be able to do this by ourselves. I mean, we're a very competent team, but we're only a handful of people. And there's like 8 billion people in the world. And probably 2 billion people have used cryptocurrency within 3 years. So we can't do this ourselves. So we have to build an alliance of like-minded people who want to transform the space for the better. Now, we're not law enforcement officials. We're not the police. But what we're interested in is bringing accountability to the space and more trust and reliability to the space so that hopefully heavy-handed regulation doesn't come in and do it for us, because it will be ham-handed if they do it. And right now, the rate of rug pulls that are happening, just in the last 2 months, for example, it's gonna bring people into space. As soon as some judge's daughter is rugged, as soon as some lawyer is rugged, as soon as some district attorney gets into cryptocurrency and gets their entire amount stolen, it's going to attract attention from the outside. And if we don't have a market-driven, voluntary solution to address some of this, we're going to end up with really over-the-top regulations that might kill the innovation that's in the space.
Man, you done said a whole lot of golden words. And these are some of the things that, I personally, I thrive on. And this is the reason why I do what I do, because there's a big problem in the space. And for you guys to be doing this, and I think I came on a live at one time on an AMA on Twitter. I said, until we start regulating ourselves, we're going to have a big problem once regulation start coming our way. We have to get the ball rolling at this point, when they come in with their regulation, they'll already notice that, hey, we are already doing our thing, so they could just follow on with what we're doing versus just building something from scratch, which will actually really benefit them and, you know, take most of the money out of our pockets. It's easy now to come out with a token and do this and do that, but when you have projects like your projects that's coming out and really putting a blueprint of what regulation should be and really start looking deep within the way things are being done to really prevent some of the rug pulls and scams that are happening in the space. I think it's really amazing. It is way overdue. So you pretty much talking about Zion right now, right? So that's pretty much what it is. So I had somebody that asked questions in relating to the project itself and said, would this be only a team use, or will this be accessible to pretty much, you know, the people?
So there's 4 things we're working on, and one of those is Zion. And Zion has 3 phases. The first phase is pretty basic, which is we develop a methodology to score. That's initially, it's a fixed methodology, but we're going to adapt as we get more use cases, or more precisely, as we get more data. And we've already done that. And so we're launching that currently. And what that is we provide a vetting service. So tokens or teams, more precisely, can come to us voluntarily, get vetted, and we're going to ask the hard questions. We're going to do the drill down. It's not just a technical audit. What Certec does, or Solidity Finance, or TechRate, these are very important for understanding the functions within a contract, but they don't tell you anything about the team that's going to use them, either you know, at present or in the future. And so we drill down on some of these things to understand the team. And one of the beautiful things about this is, you know, teams have the option to just be doxed to us, where we know the details about them, and we can vouch, you know, that they really are, you know, in this country, and they're, you know, that they're verified. But they don't have to be doxed to the public in the sense of like their street addresses out on the internet, which can be quite dangerous if you have a successful token. One of our team members who's not here right now, David Coberline, he's an attorney in Florida. He's always giving out his address, like, come find me. He's a little weird that way. Most people are not like that. People value
Florida people are weird. I'm from Florida.
Depending on the country you're in, there may be reasons, free speech reasons to not do this as well. So the first part of Zion is basically we're going to vet tokens. We have tokens in the pipeline right now, and they're gonna pay a vetting fee. We'll do the vetting, and then we're going to assign them a score. And the score is an apples to apples comparison to other basically ERC tokens. I'm a little reticent to use it for BSC tokens because there's a very different risk profile there. But right now we could say, you know, somewhat confidently for ERC tokens. And then there's going to be a link to our website where they can just verify that they've been vetted. And you get a rough breakdown of what their score is. And so this isn't the case that if somebody has a 90, they're definitely safe. And it isn't the case if somebody has a 30, they're definitely going to rug you. It's just that the 90s are much more likely to be successful and the 30s are much more likely to be a disaster. And this methodology is interesting because it really is designed for us to get in person and work with them. But we can sometimes estimate things from the outside because we do know a couple pieces of information. And this leads to some really interesting or unusual or even counterintuitive findings. So for example, but before this, I looked at Mongoose, right? You know, Mongoose is really popular right now. I think it's a couple 100 million market cap. I haven't looked at it, the market cap here today. But I looked at what's in the public domain. And so we already know that they had, for example, an audit through Solidity Finance and things like that. But there's these other dimensions that are either unknowns. And so, our methodology is to score them in the middle, a median score if we don't know. Or we do know them and they're actually concerning, but they don't raise alarm bells for anybody else. These are some of the canaries in a coal mine that we found that other people aren't looking at. And so what's wild is, even though it's extremely popular, has massive liquidity. I think there's millions and millions of dollars in liquidity. It's actively traded, so obviously the contract didn't break. It actually returns a score that's 37.5, which is actually a high-risk score. It's a very high-risk score, in fact. Even though it has a technical audit, it has very large liquidity pool, lots of people trading it. Now, it could be the case if we sat down with the dev or the dev team, we asked them some questions, we filled in some of the blanks, their score maybe even double. I mean, they might get an 80 if they're basically good people who are experienced and we can fill in these blanks. But as of right now, it actually has a lower risk score than a random token picked completely at chance where you know nothing about them. And it's so weird to think that this token is very successful, but according to our methodology, it's actually more risky than a random replacement token. Now, does that mean maybe there's a flaw in our methodology? It could be. We've got to see this in more cases. Or is this picking up on something that we just miss because it takes a little bit from here and a little bit here, a little bit from here? We'll probably know in a month, right? In a month, if it craters, it's telling us that, you know, something in this is catching some very important things that the rest of us intuitively are missing in the market. So that's just one example. Now, it'd be much better if I sat down with the team and we had a conversation with them, and they could fill in the gaps, and we could assign an actual score that's an estimate from afar. But this opens up a very interesting possibility to people who are holding ERC tokens. If you have a score that's a 30, maybe you don't throw everything in there in your rent money. I mean, you shouldn't do that anyway, but let's be real, people do that. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe you only put a little bit in because it's a 30. Something is a 90, maybe you feel more comfortable going bigger in it. And so we're never going to say something will guaranteed fail or guaranteed success. We're not mystics. We're using pragmatic data science. But we can offer an approximation, and that will be available to the public. The summary scores will be available to the public. The sausage making will be hidden behind the scenes, but the public will be able to see it and decide for themselves. That's the first part. Another part that's going to roll out is we're going to start rating influencers. So you can actually assign scores. You know, this influencer promoted, just making something up, the last 100 tokens, 95 run. Well, they're really bad. The odds are really good that if they're promoting something, it's going to fail. This other person, maybe their last 100, only 5 failed. And the odds are really good if they promote something, it's not going to fail. Those metrics don't exist right now. We're building them. If you go on Lunar Crush, you can see how much reach somebody has, but you can't see whether it's for good or for bad, or whether their hit rate is any good. Maybe they're really popular, but they suck at picking tokens. So that's kind of Zion in a nutshell. There's another utility that's further down the road. Probably won't be coming out for 6 to 12 months. But that would really play into the metaverse, and I don't want to get into that right now, but we have other utilities down the road. Amazing. I also want to speak a bit about our token and some of the charitable and other partnerships that we're engaged in.
Let's go.
Miguel and Kyle would do a very good job of speaking to those.
Let's go.
Hey, so yeah, I mean, obviously there's everything Doc spoke about, and there's a reason why we let Doc speak about the technical aspects of our coin, because it's just, there's no one that can really describe them to the public as well as he can, and we appreciate him for that. But as of more recently, we've been involved in 2 charities. We did a collaboration between ourselves, Ridge and Yeti, on Wednesday. It was about $12,000, just under $13,000 went out to a really special charity to myself. It's called Little Warriors. It's for the survivors of sexual abuse in children, which, I mean, I think everybody can understand how important the children are in our world of the future. So that one was an absolute no-brainer for us. It was great that we had 2 other tokens come in with us. I actually got to meet their CEO in person. I mean, she was over the moon with it, and really, really explained in detail how a lot of companies like hers and charities, they're not government funded. So that one was fantastic, and we appreciate the partners on that. We did one Friday with someone that's a little more local to myself. It's with the sports network TSN in Canada. We did one for the Jason Greger show, who's quite a large personality up here. That was for Adopt a Teen. So that's essentially for teenagers that they're in poor situations. And they just don't have the money to be able to provide for themselves, or maybe even buy a gift for their parents or their caregivers. So it was $50 gift cards it was supposed to be to about 300 teens. But by the end of the show, thanks to our Kickstart and some other great charities in our area, we raised, Jason Greger raised about $30,500 for that charity in one day, which is it's a super big deal. And it's something we're extremely proud to be part of. We have some other charities coming up as well. Obviously we can't talk about them until they're finalized, but I feel like the first 2 that we did, we didn't just throw a dart at a board. We picked something that makes a difference in everyday life. And you can ask anyone that knows me or anyone on our team, anything that has to do with children and helping them is very dear to my heart, and it'll be something we continue to do going forward with charity.
Amazing. You guys have done a lot. How long has this project been around?
I guess really first week in October.
Okay.
I mean, that was the seeds of it. Launched in October, so November, December, so less than 3 months in total. It seems like longer in some ways, but I think less than 3 months in total.
Safety and charity. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. Let's talk about the tokens, and I'm pretty sure everybody's waiting to hear about the tokens, want to know about the tokenomics, how many tokens we have, and all that good stuff. So what can you tell us about the token itself?
So I'll just briefly touch on the tokenomics. There's a 10 trillion total supply, of which approximately 22% is burned, so about 2.2 trillion. It's a deflationary token, so it works through reflections. There's a 7% reflection. So if you're holding a bag, your bag keeps growing on every transaction. But one of the bags that keeps growing is the debt address. And so each day, the number of tokens pulled out of circulation is a little higher. This contract does a couple of things. It burns or destroys supply. It keeps sending it to the debt address, so it's always deflationary. It builds your bag. If you're a holder, just by holding without having to do anything specialized, you don't have to stake tokens, you don't have to do anything like that, your bag will grow automatically. And so it rewards the holders and it makes it the token more scarce. And this kind of setup, when you add the third part, which is some sort of utility, it's unlike anything really before. I mean, there's a couple of things that are out there that are like this, but none of them have really existed for longer than a year. So we don't know where this is going exactly, other than it will probably be profoundly deflationary. And part of the tokenomics is when people buy our service, we don't just have a token, we have a service. When they go through the vetting service, part of what they do is they pay the team to do it because it costs money to do, but they also have to buy and burn a portion of supply. So that pumps the chart, burns this. It's like a pump with a never dump. And so that also decreases supply. And this is going to keep happening. And we're coming up to a choke point. I mean, look at the chart. The chart looks a little rough, right? We pumped to almost 60 million and we're down around 4 million. But what happened is, as all that happened, it moved a ton to the debt address. And so there's just more and more that's out of supply. And if you look at team tokens, my tokens are locked for 13 months. Like, that's out of supply. If you look at what's in Uniswap right now, well, that can't be sold into the liquidity pool because it's there. And actually, we're going to be having centralized exchanges starting next week where there's going to be trading, which means some of that supply is going to be out. Well, pretty soon the supply gets very thin. And one of our team members, Bob, likes to say we're approaching a choke point where the floor is just going to keep rising. And it really can't go down again because the supply is disappearing.
Wow. This is amazing. So it's good to have these AMAs because I'm learning so much. I know what I'm going to do after this. So we got LBank coming up, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Next week, deposits start, as does trading next week.
You have for us, gentlemen. I mean, I know you have other projects, other utilities coming on into the future. We've talked about the token. How many we have in circulation, and how many total supply do we have?
So I think total in circulation is about 7.8 trillion. But bear in mind, a good chunk of that is in Uniswap. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but a significant percentage. And then a good 10% is locked for the team. And also, I mean, Kyle can speak to this. Kyle was not on the original team. He came on later. All of his tokens he bought, but he even locked a portion of his supply, even though he bought it on the free market and, probably philosophically should have the right to sell them. But as a sign of commitment, he actually locked his tokens too. So the people on the team, our supply is out of circulation. It's locked. And then we also, where we get funding for the operation from, is we have a dev wallet that just works off the reflections. So that supply is not really even in supply either. I was talking to Bob, one of our other team members, right before this earlier today. He estimates that there's probably only 1.5 trillion that's actually available. Like, if you wanted to buy it, that's all you could get a hold of, because the rest is locked up either in a smart contract, a vesting contract, the debt address, something like that. So there's maybe 1.5 trillion that's really available. Another way to put that is only about 15% of total supply is really actual available supply today.
Amazing. I have the question keep popping up. Any plans of being listed on SatorMask?
So Kyle could speak to that a little better. He's our SATA expert. I mean, he's one of the top 100 holders and been there fairly early, and he's handled those negotiations. Kyle?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very common question I get. What I can say at this time is that there has been ongoing discussions between me and I'm not going to say who, but one of their top team members. We filled out an application for that quite a while ago. My understanding is they had some difficulties. I'm sure with after the Suzuki thing, it really, I think, slowed the process down for everybody. We have had communications with them to get on. It's in their hands now. That's all I can say about that. We've also had communications with them about some other possible collaborations, but those are going to have to be kept under wraps until I get back the information I need to get back from them.
Okay, perfect. Somebody says, if you vetted, say, Thomas, would you have caught Suzuki?
So, okay, if we had vetted, not Saitama, but if we had vetted Suzuki, then yes. As the doc says, I don't know, what do you say? Once a day, doc? They wouldn't have made it past question 1, to be honest with you.
They wouldn't have made it past question 2, but yes.
So, I mean, there was a couple things. I mean, there was things that were brought to light during that, nasty, terrible Twitter space the day after with about 4,000 people on there. I was on there. It was brought to light that only actually one of those people actually doxed, and it was the poor unfortunate gentleman there that got grilled by everybody. I'm not saying he was or wasn't part of it. That's not for me to say right now, but I mean, that was a huge red flag. And then from there, I think it would have snowballed, cascaded all the way down, and you would have seen that, yeah, it would have been absolutely 100% given a poor score by our team.
Yeah. So the score, so there's 2 parts to it. There's a score, and then there's a couple of auto fail criteria where if something is not met or something is present, and we're not going to say what those are because we don't want people to just try to game it. But there's a couple of things that are immediate, do not pass go red flags. And this had one of them. It would have automatically failed. Even if we leave that out for a second, we just go by the raw score. It scored as a risky token, which is not horrible for the crypto space, but for something that was supposedly audited and about to be put on a flagship application, that's a very high level of risk, at least in my opinion. And so it would have failed automatically. If we'd asked our follow-up questions, we would have known some of the things that would have made it problematic. And getting back to our first statement, not just tokens, teams. The token itself was fine. The smart contract didn't fail. It was the team that failed. This wasn't a technical problem. It was a personnel problem. And so the audit can come back clean. It's going to tell you the token will do what it was designed to do, but it won't tell you how the team is going to use it. That's what vetting is beyond just doxed, where you know the who and where, or beyond the technical audit where you know what. You need to know the behavioral characteristics of the team, and you need to ask some deeper questions. And our questionnaire would have, within just a handful of questions, immediately said there are striking concerns that we need additional information. Otherwise, this is going to fail. And of course, they wouldn't be able to give it, or they would have had to have run already, and it would have failed. There's a couple other tokens that are in that camp. They would have failed. Same thing with Stealth version 1. Stealth 1 would have failed outright. He also got a terrible score because of a couple other things, but it would have failed outright. None of these rugs would have happened. Squid Games would not have happened. But let me put it this way. If we had vetted them and we had posted our scores, and again, we have to have communication with the team or somebody knowledgeable about it. But if we had done that, people would go, wait, why is this an automatic fail? And then we could tell them. And then most people probably would not have put their money in there. Just those couple of whether you want to call them failures or rugs. I mean, some of them clearly were malicious activity. Others maybe were bad coding. But whatever the reason, whether it was intentional or unintentional, we could have saved people so much stress. And I can tell you, I heard through the grapevine that there were people who were actively suicidal after some of these losses. They lost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, that's a real risk, right? I mean, that's a serious risk that is not just a monetary loss. It's messing up people's lives. And these could have been prevented or at least mitigated had real vetting occurred. And real vetting did not occur in any of these cases.
Wow, this is not, the more you go in deeper about some of these things that, you know, a lot of people don't know. You know, a lot of people do not understand how critical, how severe it is on the back end. You know, you might see a project, great marketing, and when we're talking about some of the things that we may not really fully understand on the aspects of, you know, why is it a token would do so well but they score so bad. I personally think it has a lot to do with great marketing, and especially on the first week, you see this hype. You know, of course, you know, everybody want to get in early, right? Don't understand exactly nothing about the team, nothing about the contract, nothing about nothing. It's just that this is an opportunity for me to put $100, and all of a sudden I'm gonna be rich next week. And this is the mentality. This is why a lot of time we see these tokens, and you know, first week, first few days, it's like, oh my goodness. Well, it could happen, right? But first few days is great. And I always ask, what about when the hype is gone? And that's when you see the true leadership of a team.
If I were to oversimplify this, like way too simple, but it kind of gets the point across, I would just ask people, does your tokens team have more or less vetting than a McDonald's crew member? And the truth is, most tokens, some of them are 100 million or billion-dollar market caps. The team has less vetting. They've answered fewer questions than a guy who's coming up to be a fry cook. Like he had to at least fill out a form and answer some questions. Your team probably didn't. And it just boggles my mind that people will throw tens of thousands and occasionally hundreds of thousands of dollars at a team that has less vetting, that would not have passed muster for McDonald's.
Exactly. Now, when you guys vet these, because I know there's actually also a private sector where it's they're vetted, but they're into your database. Now, is there a public section too for the ones that are public, where they could come onto a website or a platform where people could actually see their scores?
So, okay, so here's what we have. Here's what we have planned. Right now, the first thing is we're going to talk to teams that volunteer. We're going to get enough information to form a solid opinion about the risk level there. And then we're going to post that risk, the aggregate score for the team, online. And there's a couple subdomains. So it won't go into all the questions, and it won't get into the individual members. Now, if it's a one-person team, you can figure out who's driving the risk. But in a multi-person team, it won't necessarily tell you who did what or whatever. But it will give you enough to make sort of an informed decision. Down the line, an additional utility we're talking about. Now, this would take some time to build. We're not there now. But an additional utility we're talking about is that holders of tokens, similar to DEX tools, you get some things if you hold tokens. Well, we can make so that if you hold tokens, you have certain privileges for seeing other kinds of information, including real-time social feed information about trending tokens and risks related to trends. There's some other things in the data science department where getting kind of first pass or under the hood information could be highly advantageous. And again, it's not just that the token is trending. Is this trending with a network of people who are known to be maybe not malicious actors, but bad actors in the sense that they're not good? And we've identified multiple networks that seem to be repeatedly associated with rug pulls. And we actually are of the opinion that there's at least one or more major groups of actors who are consistently turnkey launching tokens, shilling them, and then dumping them, or just letting them die. We call it a shrug pull, not a rug pull, a shrug pull. They just stop doing everything. They don't do any work. Everybody wanders off to the other tokens, and they extract the liquidity 3 or 5 months later.
I've seen that happen maybe 2 weeks ago. There was like 3 or 4 tokens that came out around the same time. It seems like the same devs were working the same tokens. Then when they took a time off from this token, they jumped to the other token. And I would jump from Telegram group to Telegram group of all 3 or 4 of these tokens, and I would notice once they stop communicating on this Telegram, and all of a sudden they'll appear on this Telegram. Oh, we here. And then, about a few minutes later, they off to the next token. And you know, it's sad you can't really go out there and tweet about them, and because you know you'll have a whole army coming after you. And I've tried to do that before, and I've seen the danger with that. And this is why I'm glad that we have people like you guys who are fighting to come out with a project that would help us fight against that. Because even as influencers, you want to say something, but you know you're only one person, and the army that they have, oh man, it becomes more of a safety issue to say anything. And that's why I stopped shilling project like that. I'm you know, if you want to talk about your project, my door's open. Come tell the people about your project. But it's hard for me to open my mouth and say something about a project because I know the danger with that. You know, especially when it comes to a project where people's not willing to show their faces, they're not docs. At this point, I become the face of a project that I'm not even getting paid for. Once they rug pull, guess what? Hey, Bert. And they on me on Twitter, they on me on my, it's dangerous. I can't deal with that. So I changed my ways, you know what I mean? Hey, listen, let's go ahead and let these devs introduce themselves, learn about the project, because shilling a project, it has many different factors. There's a lot of danger to it. You could make money on the first 2 days, but after that, you get rug pull. And for the people that didn't have a chance to escape, then what now?
So let me also push back against the making money. Nobody makes money in these things. They just shuffle it. The only way money is made is if someone builds real value, right? They build value that wasn't there before. Think of like a more traditional investment model. Investors give cash or some other form of capital. The person buys a building. They make, let's say, they make iPhones, and then the iPhones are very valuable. People buy them, and so now Apple is worth $1 trillion or $2 trillion. The reason it went up in value is not that like they just got exit liquidity and dumped on people. It's that Apple actually built a product people wanted to buy. Tesla actually built a product people wanted to buy. That's where real money is actually made, is in building something that wasn't there before. If you just launch a turnkey rug pull, you put up a splashy new dog, Inu something, you launch it, you extract the liquidity, you haven't created anything. You've just rearranged. In this case, you've rearranged Ethereum or USDT, but you haven't created anything. No one has made money. You've just rearranged it. Real innovation makes money. That's the magic of it, is that it takes $1 and turns it into 2. It takes $1 and turns it into 10. That's innovation. I'm actually on my phone right now. I don't own Apple stock, but I'm on an iPhone 13. This is allowing me to talk to all of you. That's an innovation. It's very valuable, which is why we paid money for it in my household, right? That's really making something. We didn't just rearrange the dollars and call it a day. Somebody built real utility. And until crypto gets its act together enough that the money goes to the utility projects, it doesn't have to be a utility I like. This isn't me making winners and losers or anybody on the team. There's a very wide diversity of political views. Some of us greatly disagree with each other politically or in other ways. That's not the point. The point is, when this money goes to scammers, it does not go to innovation in the space. And some things in this space are amazing. Some of the innovations that are going to be coming down the pike in the next 2-3 years are going to blow your mind. Just like, smartphones would to somebody 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. They're going to be amazing. But as long as these scammers are extracting significant amounts of capital, you don't get 100x on a 0x. It's always a 0x. And if that capital goes to people who are perfecting rugs, the type of utility, quote unquote, the technology that's going to get improved is rug pulls. And that's what we've seen. The ruggers are organized networks, not all of them, but there are several organized networks that are repeatedly rugging, and they're getting better at it every time. That's the utility that's being built when we think of this pump and dump. And even the people who are quote unquote investors that are getting in just hoping to dump on the next guy, you're not making money, you're just rearranging it. And so we want to change the ethos. I can tell you whatever else about our token, we might go up, we might go down, we might go sideways. We are not going to dump on you and run. I saw a question that was on my screen here. It was like, are you guys doxxed? Yeah. I'm a licensed professional in the state of Michigan, Dr. Ellis Jeruzel. David Koberline is a licensed lawyer in Florida. Kyle literally has his, yep, there you go. Kyle literally has his, I like that picture a bit better, a little less, less Grizzly Adams. But, Kyle, Kyle has his name on the door. Like, you can find us. Please don't, stay over there on the other side of the screen. But like, I mean, we're real people. We're not, we're not stock images.
That is amazing. That is amazing. You guys are doing great work in the space. Something that we all need. Many people may not notice it, but we need it. And you don't know you need it until you get rugged or scammed. So this is something that is way, way, way overdue. I notice we do have a couple other projects that are coming in on the defensive end, and that's what I call these type of projects. You guys are defensive project. Amazing. I'm looking at the roadmap right now. It is very, very interesting. So we should be seeing Zion phase 1 test somewhere around January. Production starts somewhere around the same time. And what I'm very interested about is community platform to educate people on how to identify, rug, save, invest, manage money, and create wealth opportunity. This is very, very interesting to me. As we all know, education goes a long way, especially when we're talking about safety and also investing your money, building wealth. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think that's mainly David's wheelhouse. So he's working on a crowdsourced ebook to help introduce people who are new to the DeFi space, into some of the risks and some of the basic practices. I know I came up with a few suggestions for it, but that's largely David's baby, the attorney on the team.
Okay.
And so, partially one of the I come from a healthcare background. So, prevention is always better than surgery, right?
Yeah.
If you avoid, you don't smoke, it's much easier on you than getting your lung taken out due to, lung surgery. Well, if you don't hand out your seed phrase or your secret phrase, that's much easier to just not do that than it is to try and recover funds, which will basically never happen.
Exactly.
And so, some of these things that people who are new to the space, there's a lot of new people in the space. That might be, obvious to grizzled veterans. It can be useful to just tell them outright. And so David's working on an ebook that will cover a lot of these things, basically how to avoid most of the major scams, how to engage in a way that's safe and secure, and, how to optimize your return on investment. Not that we're giving investment advice, but if you avoid a lot of 0x's, it means that the 100x's, when you get them, go further.
Perfect.
So Bert, I just wanted to kind of chime in for a second. I know you're looking at the roadmap here. You could probably see that was the original plan, was for Zion phase 1, but obviously there were some things that happened recently that caused that to be expedited. That was where we wanted to be, but due to 2 or 3 of the really famous rug pulls lately, the team came together, especially as if you look at that, the team pictures again are pretty boy Haas there in his nice suit. He decided to pick up, there he is, yeah. He decided to really, really put in some crazy hours, him and Doc, to get this done early. That was not the intention, but they did that because of an outcry of people losing their mind. I mean, we've been on some Twitter spaces lately with people that are literally crying their eyes out because they've lost 10, 15, 20 grand. To some people, that's not a lot of money, but to other people, that is maybe more money than they'll have in their bank account ever again. So due to circumstances like that, the team, and I pick on Haas a little bit, but he's an awesome guy. Him and Doc, they had to expedite things, and if people could understand how much work they had to put in a short amount of time to do that, they'd probably be amazed. I know I'm amazed by it. So just explaining why it looks like it's expedited on the roadmap.
Okay, so don't tell me there won't be a party. The party on the roadmap for.
So you want us to expedite the party too, then, or what?
No, I'm saying is the party still gonna be on, right?
I'll make sure there's a party either way. Yeah.
This party, big party for reaching 100. Market cap. Okay, good. All right,
You'll have the first invitation too.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Oh man, you guys are. It's just amazing, to see it on Twitter, to look at the website, but to actually hear it from you guys it gives a whole different perspective. The way that you guys explain it, because I hope the people that are here and the people that are coming after are getting the same perspective, because this is what I'm getting. It's like, it's like you need help, but now it's finally coming. Who says beer for everyone on the all right. So
on me.
So at this point right now, I don't know if the community have any questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the last words. We've been here for about an hour. I will take whatever you guys have to say for the last words to actually put some trust into the people. And I know right now we're living in FUD season. Everybody's gonna come out with all kinds of FUD, and we are here to build trust, not for only today, but for the future. Because if this project would have died, it would have died a long time ago.
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit about that. I mean, there's someone on our team named Bob who's one of the smartest people I ever talked to, and he literally says the only way that this is going to die is if we kill it, because it's absolutely revolutionary. Every single day, the devs buy this token, and I don't know too many other tokens that do that. They'll get their original team wallets, they'll pump as much as they can, and they might be really good tokens, they might not be. But every single day, I mean, I purchase every single day, no matter the cost of it. And there's a John that maybe we don't necessarily need money, any of us, and that might be true. But if that was the case, then why would I be putting money into this every single day? I have the utmost faith that what we're doing, and I don't want to lie, it's going to help a lot of people, but it's going to help us. Like we see where this is going. So it's a lot different than anything else. I don't think I have too much other to say than, I know Doc, touched on it. Our social media, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. Our social media impressions are going through the roof right now. If you take a look at them on Lunar Crush or anything else for that matter, you can see that we're reaching a lot of people. And we understand that we're somewhat of the outsider here. We're not the big hype coin, but we are a long-term investment.
At least not yet.
Well, yeah, like we can work on that, but we're trying to build a foundation before we move into that stage, if you will. And if we don't ever become a hype coin, that's fine. We're here to help people and to build something different. So if that's what it takes, and it takes longer than other coins, then we're fine with that. We just want people to, have an option realistically to feel safer with investments. And if you don't want to use our material, then don't. There's a lot of people that are threatened by that. And I think we know who they are. I get them DMs all the time. I don't really care. If you want to be threatened by it, that's fine. But we're here to help people that want to help. And I think what we're doing is going to change things around here for the good.
But I know from what I can really analyze is, if you mean well as a token, let's say I have a token coming out, Bert Inu, as some of my followers would say, and I mean well, right? And I don't really know what I'm doing, right? And then I go to you guys, and then you're like, hey, your score is 20. That gives me an opportunity to go back and rearrange and fix things, and then come back and say, hey, how's it now? And I would think, if personally, if anybody would to say, okay, well, I really want to create a great project, you would appreciate the fact that you have people that would vet you and tell you, this is where you stand, this is what you need to fix, and this is it. If anybody would have a problem with being vetted from top to bottom, then that means automatically, yeah, your score is a 0, because apparently you had other plans. I mean, that's my mindset on that. Not that I'm coming out with a token or nothing like that. I do have a great idea, by the way, but anyhow, I'm not gonna go ahead and hold you guys too long. There has not been any more questions from the community. I want to thank you, gentlemen, so much. Dr. Ellis, Mr. Miguel, Mr. Kyle. As I always say, you guys are welcome back here anytime. Just say the word, and I'm looking forward to the progress of this project in the next year, next 5 years, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. And for those of you that are going to be watching this show after that, thank you. If you do have questions, please leave them in the comment below, because they will be back. If I can't answer your question, I will DM them for you. But in the meantime, check out their website, follow them on Twitter, and also join them on the Telegram. All the information is in the description below. You guys have a wonderful evening. Take care, and until next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.